Greetings, YouTube. When it comes to role-playing games, the genre I've played the most has been fantasy. But coming in a very close second is post-apocalyptic, specifically Gamma World. In the last couple of months, I've been playing with an idea in my head, and it's really come into focus this last night. My father recently took a cruise from Seattle to Alaska. I think it was a 10-day cruise. He quite enjoyed himself. But I've been playing with the idea of what would cruise ships be like in the far future. So I want you to imagine that sometime in the 22nd or maybe early 23rd century, that's about the time period I like the end of the world to take place in. It's not too far into the Star Trek universe, you know, as far as technology goes, but you still get all kinds of cool stuff. So you imagine there's an ocean liner. Now this particular ocean liner can be any size that a GM wants it to be. It could have the capacity for 200 passengers, or it could have the capacity for 10,000. It's entirely up to what the GM wants. It's an early model of automated passenger liner. It's got an AI system, but it's not particularly bright. There's a skeleton crew of humans that help make sure that the computer that runs the ship and the collection of robots and such, and all the subsystems keeps functioning. But by and large, the ship runs itself. So now we move forward to the moment when, well, the world ends. Because they're on a mobile object that has a fusion power plant and its ability to make all of its own food, they're in a really good position. The captain moves the vessel as far as he can away from everything, and they weather the end of the world with some success. We'll move forward some time. How much is up to you? Maybe the crew dies of old age, maybe there's a mutiny, who knows? But someone tries to wrest control of the vessel. They try to take it over for themselves. And in the process, they do something they didn't mean to. The AI gets put back to factory settings. And the AI thinks it's just a cruise ship. Doesn't know that there's a war going on, or has gone on. And just goes back to the last coordinates it was given, which was the route that it sailed from port to port to port to port forever. No one on board the vessel has the command codes required to put the captain back in charge. So while the AI respects the captain and the crew, it doesn't listen to any of them other than taking some advice. And so this relatively stupid AI starts to go about its business of taking the happy passengers on their cruise. Well, that at least is what the AI thinks. I'm thinking of the AI in a lot of ways as part paranoia, part Colonel Clink from Hogan's Heroes. Now, the secret to surviving on board this vessel are the ID badges that everybody has. Now, everyone has one, all passengers and all crew, and these allow you to have access to food, to shelter, to medical care, everything you could possibly need. So they don't have it bad. But over time, over the years, people sneak on board. So you end up a population of stowaways. And the stowaways are living deep in the bowels of the ship, hiding from the ship's security system, and hiding from the ship's crew and the ship's passengers, because they're kind of at war with each other. The stowaways want to get those ID badges and the resources of the ship, and they're willing to kill, potentially even consume, the crew and passengers to do this. And the crew and passengers want to make sure that they stay in control of as much of the ship as they can. Over time, a hierarchy develops. Those people that are generational, they were on this ship generation after generation, have the highest social status. The next down after that are those who've gotten on board, have gotten badges, and have been accepted by the crew or the passengers on a kind of a trial basis. They end up being the grunts of the world on this ship. And they're ranked by how many tours they've been on board. If you've been on for one tour, you have a lot less social status than someone who's been on the ship long enough to be on 3 tours. And these are the grunts. These are the people that provide the muscle for the elite of the crew and the passengers. Now, the stowaways also have a danger that they can sometimes get caught by security. And security does different things with them depending on what they look like. If they look close to pure strain human or very lightly mutated, something that fall into the category of body modification, the ship holds them for authorities at the next port of call. If they are severely mutated, the ship thinks they're injured, sends them to the medical bay where they get treated, which could be good or bad, and then they get held for the authorities. But if they look like animals, the ship was going to try to find their master, assuming they're pets, and if they aren't, they're going to be held until they can be put onto a nature preserve. Now, if they look like sea creatures, fish or crustaceans, they're probably going to end up in the mess hall. Yeah, not a good fate. And if the game you're running has plants in them, the plants are really good at hiding, because they can just hop in a pot, stand in the hallway, and look like foliage. Yeah, I said that wrong intentionally. So you have the different groups on board all vying for power and control of the vessel. Now, the people on the shore want the vessel too. It's got a working fusion plant. It's got working robots, machine shops, vessels that go to and from the main ship. It's got a medical bay that functions. It's got an incredible storehouse of music and movies, 3D films, holograms and such, and just books on digital books. Not a lot of technical stuff, but just a wealth and storehouse of information. Now, as far as those stowaways that are waiting to give them to the authorities, well, slavers figured out that if they can pose as the authorities, the ship will hand them merchandise for nothing. Now, the first thing they do is they try to ransom them, because it's a possibility that the stowaways have relatives on the island that they're on. And if that doesn't work, they just sell them. Same thing with the animals that are handed over to the authorities to put onto a reserve. They're going to get sold into slavery. It's not pleasant, but it's an economy that's functioned for however many years your campaign is into the future. It could be decades, maybe even centuries, of this ship going from place to place to place. Now, you could place this in the Mediterranean, you could place it in the Caribbean, you could place it in the South Seas, you could have a big tour, like all the way around the Pacific or all the way around the Atlantic, or you could have it going all the way around the planet, multiple stops along the way. Now, obviously, the Panama Canal is probably long gone, so you're going to have to go the long way around the South America, but that's life. So this is an idea I've been playing with my head. I don't necessarily know if I'm ever going to do anything with it. I haven't given you a name for the ship, a real name, because if it's an idea that you're going to work with, you can name the ship anything you want to. Name the AI anything you want to. And again, this vessel could be anything from the size of the QE2 up to the ship that was in Wall-E, or the one they had in Fifth Element, that went the orbital vessel that went down to the surface and back up again on a daily basis. But it's an idea rife with potential here. There's a lot of cool things. You could have a campaign all on that vessel. You could have a campaign that dealt with people going from the shore to the vessel and back again. You could have a rescue going after people that may have been stowaways and then got sold into slavery. There's a lot of adventure ideas here, all based off this cruise ship and its not too bright AI doing its duty and taking all of its happy passengers on a tour of the ocean.